Man, I feel so professional here.
I know.
On our new stage.
It's a beautiful stage setup. I love it.
It's wonderful, actually.
I feel like, have you seen that show with David Letterman? And he's like, they sit on the stage and he's talking to cool people.
Yeah.
You know, like Jay-Z.
Yeah.
P. Diddy? I mean, wait. Never mind.
It's derailed quickly.
Yeah, it's a great setup here.
Full green screen mock-up of the Neon Rooster, live from Casino Guitars.
It's beautiful, yes. This is all green screen behind us, not real at all. What, did you just play the new Sheeran Looper by HeadRush?
I did. And hey, it's really fun, actually.
Well,
it's addictive.
So you loop way more than I do. I loop for like aesthetic and to say that, you know, oh, I'm a professional. I'm not, you know. But you actually loop and do it quite often, and you're very good at it.
Well, I'm okay at it. I feel like I'm like base level, you know, level. But I will say this.
He's great.
So you know, I've been looping in solo shows for like over a long time. You know, like a really long time. Just because, you know, when it's just me, I want to be able to play solos and waste time, right? But I used to do this thing. My friend of mine used to be a part of this church, and they'd have these Saturday night prayer things. And if I wasn't playing, I'd take a huge pedal board with a looper on it, and I would just make tracks like in the background where they'd have these Saturday night like prayer things, right? I was just in the background the whole time, and I could just loop and practice, and I'd build a whole big loop with like washy, you know, reverb and stuff, and I had like a little mini pod. And I'd make the bass line, and then I'd, you know, break it back down, and then I'd start a new one. You know what I mean? And I would do that for like hours at a time with people there, and I feel like that helped me.
Look at Johnny making soundscapes, dude. You're a little Brian Eno.
Then I got old and grew a beard and started yelling at clouds.
Knowing, you know, the people know now. I knew you had some loop background. I didn't know all that. That's pretty cool.
I still have a lot.
Well, with this,
that was DL4 action. Old school DL4.
Oh my gosh.
That's right. Call me minus the bear.
Minus.
Do you remember those guys? You don't remember?
No,
you don't know
I
minus
have
the
no
bear?
idea
Oh
what
my
you're
God, I am old. But anyways, keep going.
So, this looper stacking up to those, because I know nothing about this. We came into this, we were just hanging out here while you did this, and I was going to wait and hold my questions till after. So my first question is, stacking this up.
They're not even in the same. Not even in the same universe. Not like, because like, you know, the nicest one I've ever owned until this is the old Boss, the double pedal with the two pedals, you know, with a dedicated like start and stop.
Yes.
But then I, you know, got simpler and simpler where I was like, well, you know, I don't mind having to hit the button twice to stop my loop, right? You know what I mean? Like I just don't, because I'm always just building a couple loops on top of it, like I said, the solo or like to build the outro of a song, or, you know what I mean, to do something cool. And rarely do I ever have the loop going like the whole song if I'm playing a solo gig. You know, sometimes I do, but it's rare. Mostly it's I'm playing, I'm singing, I loop a part, hit it and let it go so I can play the lead part of the solo and then go back to playing singing. Turn the loop off, you know? Yeah. But this, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like you could create your whole little, I mean, obviously Ed Sheeran does create his whole band and his whole show. And yeah, I mean, the fact that it's separate tracks, all that stuff, that you can mix it. And I mean, that's the thing. Anybody that's ever used like a entry-level looper or just the normal looper, like I have an RC one now, you know, the more tracks you add, the muddier it gets coming out of your guitar amp, or even if it's just, you know, into one channel on a PA. So splitting up those channels makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Well, so, and let's break down the drum tracking on that too, right? So did you have to go through and play all the drums, or was it already preset full drum packages, or like, tell me the rundown of that, and also how many loopers have you messed with that had drum tracks? However you want to dissect that. I gave you a lot at once.
Before I answer, thank you to our pal Z. He's busy trading dolphins down in Florida. If you watch the channel, you've heard us talk about Z. He loves Ed Sheeran probably more than anyone on the whole earth. So I knew he was going to get one of these, and he was kind enough to send it to us. So thank you, Z.
Yes. Well, if Ed Sheeran, if you see this, and by any strike of luck that you do see this, Z would love if you just commented and acknowledged that. You don't have to comment on our video. You can just make comment of it. He would like,
or just show up at his house.
You don't even have to say anything about Casino Guitarists. I just want you to give Z some recognition because he loves you. And not in like the creepy way either, like in the way where he just give you a hug.
He would wear your skin. But and listen, like we just did the little the Line 6 pod thing, and I said in that, like, we don't really have any skin in the game. Like, we don't sell these. We're not a dealer for HeadRush or Sheeran Loopers.
Yeah.
you know, but it's really cool that people send us stuff to get to try out and do videos for you guys. Obviously, we spent a little more time on this one, and we're just having fun.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, so
Drums.
What's really cool about this is there's a huge list of drum tracks preloaded.
Cool.
Sort of by genre, you know, and then when you import it, and now listen, I've only scratched the surface of this thing, but when you're adding the drum track, and you can add drums on any of the 4 tracks on the looper, because it's laid out as a 4-track thing, it asks you how you want to import those drums to the track. As is, which is all I did, which is just like a 4-measure thing. It was there when I hit play, you know. Or you can, I think there's an option, I know there's an option to change the BPM. I think there's an option to actually change the length. But I just hit import as is, and I had that drum track you guys heard. So I mean, I couldn't even scroll through them all. There's a ton on there. So you know, you asked me how many I've messed with before that had drum tracks.
Yes.
Some of the boss ones I've had rhythm tracks.
Yeah, like the RC3 stuff and everything, where it's kind of, it almost sounds, if you haven't been able to play one of those, it's nothing like this. This sounds like in the room, true drum samples. It sounds like they actually mic'd up somebody in a studio and caught the sound.
I mean, I'm tempted to get the little Sheeran, like plus the little brother to this, just to have, because I think you get all the same drum sounds, right? I mean,
they sound amazing though. Like,
even if you
can
just
hear
did
that
it,
in the thing.
I think I'd use it live. But even if you were just, this is too. I mean, as cool as this is, it is $1,200. You'd have to really be doing it live, or, you know,
looping
have a fair amount of disposable income. But you know, I would use this live. I just don't think I'm going to invest that much in it, because it would take a lot of practice. You know what I mean? So the ones I've had before were more like glorified click tracks.
Yeah.
Not so much to add to the sound live. You know what I mean? Now, I've had ones before where you could have loaded that stuff in. I've just never done that.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, and I'm looking at it now, and I saw you kind of dial it in when you got here, and you went pretty quick with it. So, like I said, I didn't really get to see the, you know, exactly how the drum tracks are going. I just see you kind of punch in some buttons, and you kind of went forward and launched it, right? It to me reminds me. I use a lot of synthesizers, a lot of drum machines and stuff like that in the music that I make at times. This reminds me of the Akai MPC that I have. The Akai MPC. What is it? I think it's called the One. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's basically they're all in one package. That is a huge production machine, right? But it seems like the drum tracking is similar to it, especially with the touchscreen they have on there, and that works and functions in a very similar way, where you can have preloaded samples on there that you just shuffle through and hit play on. It's pretty cool though. That's a huge thing to have at the touch of a foot, versus where I have to actually dive in, set it up, lock it in, and then hit play.
Well, you can load in your own drum tracks on this thing. You can load in full blown backing tracks.
Wow.
If you already had like songs saved, or like maybe you've been already doing the shows, you could download all that into this thing and import it. This thing is pretty intuitive. Like, I haven't read any manuals. But it did take me a few minutes, and there was a moment of frustration. But I kind of realized the reason for that is it's laid out so that you can do all the things, get into all the menus with your feet, right? So that you could do it all live. So that means there's some extra, like you have to hit the mode button to like be able to mute the tracks once you got them all going. And then you have to remember to hit that again to like select tracks if you don't want to mute them, to like do something else. There's a function button down there that lets you pick, do you want to mute the tracks? Do you want to clear a track? Do you want to clear all the things? And all these other things, you know, and find the effects for each track. So you can mess around and pretty much figure it out.
Yeah.
You could read the manual. Probably the best thing, Andertons did a great deep dive. Obviously, Danish Pete is like the king of the loopers with Ed Sheeran. They like sit on the thrones of looping, I guess. But they do a really good job explaining it. And I wish I had watched it before I figured some of the things out. It would have taken me a lot less time.
Yeah. Now,
you know,
with all that being said too, let's say if we broke it down via tier, what would it take for you to justify something this size in your constant setup? Like, take it all the way from you're in a stadium, which I think it's kind of odd to me, especially in a stadium. That's got to be a weird scenario to say, well, I'm just going to take the looper.
What a rush, man, to like stand on stage with just this thing. And when you watch Ed Sheeran do it, like,
he's doing it.
You couldn't just do that. Like I cannot imagine how many hours he's put into like practicing those songs and the loops. Or some of these guys, you know, I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole of watching some guys loop. Some with the Sheeran, some with the, I think it's the R600 that Boss makes, or the RC600, whatever it's called. It's amazing. You know what I mean? That they're doing it so quickly and fluidly. Because your brain, like my brain is like, okay, what, you know.
Yes. Right.
So for me to want this, right? Like I had, so when I play solo, it's mostly acoustic. Sometimes I play electric guitar, which would make me want the drum track, kind of honestly. But you know, I like my solo shows kind of broken down because I have a band too.
Yeah.
So they kind of scratch different itches for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I decided, man, I'm gonna play and have like full band kind of vibes when it's just me, and I was doing that most of the time.
Yeah.
I think I would spend, because it wouldn't even be the money, wouldn't be the investment, the practice to get it to where you could really use it to its full capability. The other way I could see using it, and this actually is a good scenario for me. Like, you know, I'm not crazy computer savvy. I don't like know how to run Pro Tools great or Logic like you know Sean does and Derek. They can do all that stuff.
Not a chance.
If I was just gonna like wanted to hardcore like songwrite and capture it all, this would be a great tool for that. If you were that invested in spending that money, you know what I mean? I could see that.
Well, it's a recording tool, right?
Well, just maybe I'm just basically a really expensive, really nice sketchbook.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to put it. I referenced that Akai MPC-1 that I have.
Yeah.
Exact same reason that I bought that was to sketch out stuff. So it's cool that this already for you. And, you know, we've only had this a few days at this point. You know, it's really interesting to see that it's made an impact on you like that. Because I took a risk on that Akai, and it was $800. I think for $1,200 as a guitar player, I would probably take the risk even more so. It took me a while to pull the trigger on that just because sometimes you don't know what it's going to kind of function as. So it can either be that live solution for you or something completely out of context with it, you know. The
other thing, man, like, you know, I went through a phase, especially during COVID, where like everything was locked down, and I went through a phase when I left Nashville, and I was just like jonesing to play, you know, 7 nights a week or whatever, where I would play the backing tracks all the time, just to have something, you know, to jam with, right? And that's fun, but it gets old after a while, and you can't find exactly what you want. I posted a clip of this on Instagram after Z sent it the first day that I messed with it. And a couple guys on Instagram and Facebook said basically they only played at home, but something like this, because, you know, like their band they jam with is always, it's either a backing track or it's something that they're looping. Yeah. This would be like a really cool way, like, you know what I mean? Like if you love playing, but you're playing at home, you're not really playing out, and that's, you know, to be able to put the bass line in, the drums, and then just jam with yourself. And I mean, when, you know, you saw on there, I'm using the whammy pedal function on this thing. I just turned all the, you know, the main octave and obviously no octave up off, and just used, you know, the octave down. Down. That was the little bass line. So.
It sounded great to me in the booth, from what I was able to hear.
I think it's, you know,
you know, for fulfilling that role.
Where it's not a crazy bass line, it's just something to low underneath. And I mean, you know, the fact that we could send it out, there's 4 inputs, 4 outputs. The fact that we were able to route all 4 to different tracks, they went into Pro Tools or Logic, whatever we're using. And, you know, then we could kind of mix them and do different things. That
was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you is about the inputs. And seeing as it does have the 4, what I think is extremely cool about that is one input, you're no longer limited to, oh, well, I got my guitar. You could set up a little keyboard.
Yeah, the keyboard, man. You could have a bass sitting there if you wanted to. You microphone into it. You know what I mean?
All that stuff.
Because, you know, the guys I see on YouTube that are great at it are Ed Sheeran. They're doing the vocal parts too and turning them on and off. And that would be kind of. I've never connected in any of my stuff like a mic to the looper, just because it's always a pain. You know what I mean?
But that would be amazing, especially background harmonies, because I believe you can stack within one track and cut it on and off, right? Is that what it does? Okay, I was seeing that. Each
track is almost like its own little like RC1 looper kind of thing. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So that's pretty awesome.
And then if you layered harmonies on one track, that's an even greater way to think about, you know, it as a whole. If you were using it for,
I mean, every track is essentially infinite. You know what I mean? Like you could stack and layer, which is really cool. You know, and I think it's worth saying, you know, that some of this stuff HeadRush was kind of doing, you know what I mean? It sounds to me like Ed Sheeran kind of tweaked the layout of the whole thing it comes sort of preloaded with his sort of workflow, but you can reroute all that stuff pretty easily.
Yeah.
One of the things I picked up from the Andertons video is that it comes where like when you hit record and you hit the button again, it goes straight to overdub. But I don't like that because I'm usually like improvising. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, right?
You want
but
to just be able to play it.
Yeah.
And
So like,
see how it feels.
if you wanted to do that, you know, if you had the song down and you were doing it kind of the same every time, that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
But it was really easy to go into the menu and switch it to where I hit record, and when I hit it again, it's just playing, and then I got to step on it again to overdub. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But
Which,
anyways,
that's nice to have because most loopers don't. Most loopers, it's like, here you go. This is what it is.
a lot of them
That's all you got.
know, especially the less expensive, like simpler ones, like I tend to have. Yeah.
Well, I know with like the boss
Ditto,
ones,
Boss ones,
the
yeah.
ones that I've played with like that. Like I said, I use mine more in an abstract manner. They're not. It's not so much okay. I'm gonna play with myself. It's more like I'm gonna make a weird sound on it, right? But even with that, I've gotten used to that where I know I can just hit it once and it's just gonna play, and then I gotta hit it twice to overdub and stuff. You know.
Well, speaking of that, the weird sounds, you can take these tracks and you can sort of like unlink them from each other. Like the way I had it, you know, they were all that 4 measures long, like the drum track, right?
Yeah.
But you can have them all independent. So if you made a weird sound and you just wanted to be able to hit it right away and it make the weird sound and then hit it again and turn it off, you could do that. So you can have
So
the
they
first,
can start independently. Wow.
and one could be like a measure long or a half of a measure long. One could be 8 measures long. One could be 6 measures long. It doesn't matter, right? And
cool.
they're all syncing in time together. It's pretty wild. There's the song mode. There's a sync mode. There's a totally where they're totally separate. It's pretty neat. And again, I haven't gotten into all that. And if you want to hear more about that, go check out the Andertons video because it's really good.
Well, honestly, I think it would take, because even with like the Andertons video, I'm sure they've deep dived in and done a fantastic job like they always do.
Probably read the manual.
Well, I would say imagine what he could do with it in 3 months.
Oh.
It would take, because out there, if you've played around with a piece of gear that, I know for me at least, synthesizers, keyboards, stuff like that, I have to sit with it for a while and really like get behind the thing, and whether it's this, whether it's even a pedal. I've got to be with it for a bit before I'm like,
pedal
man,
and amp.
I've got it all dialed in, to be able to just tweak it and know what it's going to do.
Well, I still think about, man, I like a telly, I'm so at home, I can do volume swells. I don't have to ever look at the controls at all, you know. But the 335, I still occasionally find myself like looking, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And
no,
like
that
the
is
Gretsch
funny.
I was playing,
I get that. Yeah, my SG and stuff like that, same exact thing, because I'm not used to the 4 knobs. I got so used to the Strat, all of my fingers and the switch and everything. I hit it. I can grab the switch with my thumb.
Yep.
First finger on the volume, tone, and I'm ready to turn any of those or switch any of those immediately.
Well, you get, and that's one of the things, controversially, we'll praise Joe Bonamassa. But I mean, you watch that dude when he's playing Les Paul, and it's amazing how he knows what he's doing. And so any piece of gear is like that. I don't care if it's a guitar, I don't care if it's an amp, a pedal. Yeah, you got to have it for a little while to really get the most out of it.
It's going to be really cool to see what people find out you can do with these in 3 to 6 months. I think it's going to really evolve, and I think this is one of. I've seen Ed Sheeran get behind a few products. I think this is one of the few that I've seen be a complete knockout. Like this is awesome. A great piece of gear, and I think he killed it. What are your thoughts as the player?
I mean, the switches look huge, So like from a layout standpoint, like hitting it, you're not going to hit another switch by accident. Like that's pretty amazing. It looks like they're going to like sort of last forever. I mean, it makes me happy they look like boss switches. Yes. You know what I mean?
That's all metal too, well, right? Yeah.
It's big. It's sort of the right size. I don't think you'd want it much smaller. Just you know what I mean?
Well, and there's something to space, and we've talked about this with pedal boards, and especially I bumped up to 2 recently and stuff. We've talked about your gear and your boards and how sometimes space makes everything feel better, even if it means less pedals or if it means a bigger looper. That amount of space, I think, adds a calmness to your mind where you're like, no, I have room here.
You're not cluttered.
I'm not going to slam stuff. Yes.
But I mean, this thing, it sounds great. The effects in it are pretty darn good. The amp sound, like the guitar sounds, are okay. You're not buying it to replace like your Helix or anything like that. Like it's not good. I mean, I've heard that people say that, but they're fine, right? Like I was playing my pedal board into the like really basic clean amp sound preset on there on all the channels. And I think that's the way I'd want to do it live, right? Because it's also not really made to be able to like switch effects. Now, when you set the effects on the track, like if you set a little reverb and a clean amp sound, or you set that whammy effect for bass, it stays there. And when you set the scene, it's ready the next time you go to it.
That to me
So
is
that's
super
cool.
useful. That sounds great.
But you know, so like that just goes to the same thing. What I think, I mean, I think it's really well thought out. It's really fun to use. It sounds really, you know, sounds great. I mean, I don't really have a downside other than, and this isn't really a downside. I mean, because I think it's worth it, but it is expensive, obviously. I think it would be a lot to get really used to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
But it's great. I think it's a great piece of gear.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first. Sounds like this is the looper for you if you're looking to record, write, play live, do any of those things. I think
Super looper.
I think it's cool. I'm excited to play around with it too.
You should.
I think we should do that. You ready?
See, you're getting your looper in 2025.
Good luck, son. Thank you for watching. Let us know if you have any comments or questions on this in the comments section, or email us at the shop. Obviously, we don't carry any of these once again, just to put that out there. But if you do have questions, I'm sure me or Jonathan or Dylan or Baxter or Derek or James or anybody would be happy to answer any of the questions that you might have if we have the answers.
We will try our best.
We will try our best, exactly. Yeah, I think that's about right?
That's it. Hit like, hit subscribe.
Hit the bell. We'll see you next time.